So in that note, again, I'd like to acknowledge first that the Honorable Councilor Sakay, former Vice Mayor of the beautiful city of Malolos, is in the house. Magandang hapon po. Ay, hapon pa ba? Hapon pa rin. Okay. Magandang hapon po. Okay, at this point, I did mention that we are going to have fruit shake. Naririnig niyo po yung blender? May fruit shake po tayo. Okay lang. Katabi ko po. Okay lang ate. Mango yung sa akin. Okay. All right. Sabi sa inyo, I got humor. Okay. So, wala po sa libro yun. Wala po sa libro yun. Bonus po yun. Part 2. Pwede. Oh, yan. May nag-order avocado. Out of stock daw. Okay. So, now, we mentioned a while ago that we have an expert, no, who will actually tell us a little bit more about PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. So, this expert, she is actually the founder of Tanglaw Mental Health, which is a social enterprise that is pioneering in
Recording in progress.
Ay, ngayon lang nag-record. Ulitin natin sa start. Okay. That is, it's a social enterprise that is pioneering in mental health education. She has actually spoken at different institutions, and she is speaker for TEDx here in the Philippines, as well as she was also featured in various media outlets, including GMA News, Rappler, and Panahon TV. Friends, panahon na to listen to Miss Ann Silva.
Thank you. Akala ko ano lang yun. Thank you, Doms, for the introduction, and thank you, Ron, for the invite. When I first got invited by Ron, they was going to launch itong publishing of the book, I Got Humor. I was thrilled for him, knowing, and he told me everything that he went through. And it's just amazing for me to see him and other people in the same position as well rise up and thrive despite their past, their experiences. It actually reminded me of this one quote that I heard. It says, one day, you will tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it will be someone else's survival guide. And that quote itself was amazing for me. That's why it's so awesome for me to be here. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. No, it's 5 p.m. It's good to see you all here. And as Doms has introduced, I'm Ann Silva. I'm the founder of Tanglaw Mental Health. Basically, Tanglaw Mental Health is the Philippines' pioneer in mental health education. And we've been working as a mental health consultancy firm since 2019. Basically, we're working directly with high growth organizations, high growth companies in creating mental health programs that are sustainable and measurable for their employees as well as for their leaders. But I'm happy to be here today because we're going to talk about something that most people have probably heard about, no, but most often misunderstood. And it's called PTSD. All right? Katulad na sabi nila, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we have a lot of misconceptions about it. A lot of people don't understand it. And dahil hindi natin naiintindihan, kinakatakutan natin. And there's even one instance that I've seen where people were scared of it because people who are struggling with PTSD seem dangerous. Lalo na yung mga, for example, war veterans, right, who just came from war. They can seem scary when they're experiencing yung outbursts nila. But what they don't know is that there's so much more to it than just that. So today, we're going to talk about the most important facts about PTSD that we will want to know. Malay natin, someone we know or someone we care about is probably experiencing symptoms from a trauma that we don't actually realize. And this is just beside other mental health disorders, na sinasabi nila Doms kanina, iba pa to from anxiety, from depression, and from bipolar disorders. Those are different conversations that we might we might want to have later on. But baka second book na sinasabi nila Doms, no? Second book. Yeah. But hopefully understanding this will also help you read, help you understand as you read Ron's book. Because actually something that what we're going to be talking about today is a bit specialized and it's a bit technical. No? So I want to be able to help you get your bearings as we go through this very quick talk. All right. First, we're going to talk about what most people don't know or don't understand about the experience of PTSD. Okay, to describe natin what does it look like. Second, we're going to tackle how we're supposed to see if someone or maybe someone we care about might be struggling with trauma. Okay, and lastly, we're going to talk about how we can overcome PTSD from three perspectives. All right, now feel free to write it down, take a picture or screenshot, whatever you learn from here, because I assure you, this is something that you will want to take note of. Okay, ready ba tayo? Proceed tayo sa first part. The truth about PTSD. Okay? When we talk about PTSD, it's something that we hear every now and then. But what's crazy about this is that we don't really think about what goes on inside the mind of a person struggling with PTSD. But before I even begin with the technicalities of it, let me summarize the experience in one sentence. It's a war within yourself that never goes away. Napaka-powerful ng visual na yon. But yes, it's definitely so hard to describe. Okay, so i-break down natin to in a minute. Okay? But when we say PTSD, it's also called post-traumatic stress disorder, meaning ito yung immensely and overwhelmingly negative stress that we experience after a traumatic event or several traumatic experiences. But what does immensely and overwhelmingly negative stress look like? We can describe it in 5 ways. Okay? The first is we have had an exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence in one or more ways. One, and i-describe ko sa inyo yung iba't ibang ways. Yung first is, tayo mismo yung naka-experience, direct experience. So, meaning, for example, kapag na kidnap tayo, that's our direct experience. The second way is in-person witnessing, meaning, nandoon tayo sa situation na seeing someone else experiencing that traumatic event. Okay, so witness tayo. The third is when we learn about it or when we learn that someone that we care about, someone close to us, is exposed to that experience or that trauma. Okay? And yung fourth is when we have seen repeated or where we're repeatedly exposed to certain details of traumatic experiences. So for example, police officer na palagi siyang pumupunta sa mga scene of the crime, right? That's repeated exposure. Okay, so those are different ways where we can experience trauma. Yung second is ito basically, describe natin siya as intrusion. Okay? The intrusion or disturbance. So, papasok siya through memories. Okay? Yung mga naaalala ko and it's making me feel so bad. No? Yung bigla ko na lang maaalala. Second, papasok sa panaginip natin. We experience nightmares about it. Okay? Yung third is when we get flashbacks. And intense yung flashback kasi yung flashback para siyang nandun ulit ako sa sitwasyon na yon. Nangyayari siya sa akin all over again. Yon. Okay? And yung next is meron tayong na-experience na difficulty both emotionally at saka physical, no, yung nagpa-palpitate tayo, bibilis yung heartbeat natin every time na na-expose tayo sa anything that reminds us of that experience. Like for example, naamoy ko yung scent ng kidnapper ko. And that's very triggering for me. So, na-experience ko siya ulit, naramdaman ko ulit yung takot, tapos naramdaman ko ulit yung pagbilis ng heartbeat ko, right? Those are different experiences. Now, I have to take note also na iba-iba yung experience. Na mga tao na nagsistruggle sa PTSD. One experience is not the same as the other. Okay? Pero yung avoidance, this is always, palagi siya nandyan. Okay? May avoidance tayo whether sa pag naisip, parang I avoid as much as possible thinking about it or even remembering the feeling. I want to avoid that as much as possible, as well as external reminder. So, for example, if it happened in a certain place, I don't want to go there anymore. Kaya if it's about a certain person, I don't want to see that person ever anymore. Okay? That's how we avoid. And yung next natin, may changes tayo sa, kumbaga, how we think and how we feel in general. Ay, so pwede siyang pumasok as nalilimutan ko yung specific details ng traumatic event na yun. Kahit na sobrang importante siya, ganyan. May medical term tayo dyan. It's called dissociative amnesia. And typically, for example, pag sexual violence survivors, ganyan, hindi nila naaalala yung specific details. That's because of that. Okay? Yung next is maybe naapektuhan yung beliefs natin, tsaka yung mga iniisip natin tungkol sa sarili natin, tungkol sa ibang tao, at tsaka tungkol sa mundo. Okay, so sabihin natin, ako may kasalanan nito. It's all my fault. Okay? Kaya sabihin natin, no one can be trusted. I cannot trust anyone anymore. Okay? Or maybe the world is completely dangerous. I don't want to involve myself in anything in the world anymore. Okay? And another experience under this is, ano ba, persistent yung negative na feelings natin, yung feeling natin ng takot, yung feeling natin ng anger, yung feeling natin ng guilt or shame. Okay? And medyo bababa yung ano natin, yung pag-experience natin ng positive emotions. Okay, nahihirapan tayong makaramdam ng saya, satisfaction, or even loving feelings. Okay? And then we feel detached from other people. Okay? So again, iba-ibang experiences, we may experience more of them or maybe just one of them, depende. All right? And yung last dito is there is a change in our behavior. Okay? Change sa kung paano tayo makipag-relate sa ibang tao, paano tayo gumalaw no, sa pang-araw-araw nating buhay. Pwedeng nakaka-experience tayo kadalasan ng pagiging irritable o kaya biglang lalabas yung galit natin, gano'n, na hindi natin makontrol. And kadalasan, ito yung kinakatakutan ng mga tao, no? Yung biglang mag-outburst, bigla kang magagalit, tapos hindi nila alam kung bakit, gano'n. Okay? And papasok din dito yung, baka dati, okay naman tayo, parang feeling safe naman tayo, we do things that are safe. Ngayon, medyo reckless yung behavior natin, medyo hanap tayo ng mga activities na self-destructive, okay? Whether it's like drug use, gambling, whatever it is. Yung next is hypervigilance at saka yung increase yung startle response natin. Yung kapag onting ingay lang, magugulat tayo. Ay kadalasan, this is experienced by war veterans. Kasi yung gunshots, di ba? So kapag nakarinig sila ng konting paputok lang, ganyan. And medyo mag-trigger sila. Okay? And yung last is, pwede tayong magkaroon ng difficulty sa tulog natin o kaya sa pag-concentrate natin. Okay? Now, dahil itong mga experience ito, it's very varied. Sobrang daming ways na pwede natin ma-experience yung PTSD. Kadalasan, ang isang tao na nakaka-experience ng PTSD, 80% more likely to also experience other mental health concerns. Katulad ng sinasabi nila Ron kanina na bipolar, depression, okay, anxiety, and substance use. Okay? Now, in this case, hindi porke may may isa tayong nakikita or dalawa, no, pwede na agad ma-diagnose sa PTSD. Hindi po ganun yun. There are certain parameters that we have to take into consideration. Specifically, pagdating dito sa PTSD, may, for example, sinabi ko kanina, no, na yung first, for example, na description natin, kailangan we have experienced at least one, no, na way, itong first na to. Yung second, pwedeng dalawa dito, ganyan. So, but I just described it for you. But in the case of PTSD, we can be or someone we know can be diagnosed with PTSD if yung experience nila is happening for more than 1 month. Okay? And nakaka-apekto talaga sa pang-araw-araw nilang buhay. Nakaka-apekto sa relationships nila, sa trabaho nila, right? And it's not, and yung na-experience nila, hindi dahil sa medical condition o dahil sa substance or kung ano man yan, okay? It's solely caused by the traumatic experience. Alright? And that's, at least nakadaan na tayo sa nitty-gritty nung PTSD. But if you guys have any questions or any clarifications regarding it, feel free to write it down since I think may meron tayong Q&A after this. Okay? But now we proceed to the second part, which is, paano ko malalaman kung yung mahal ko sa buhay nakaka-experience na pala ng PTSD symptoms? Okay? There are 4 ways that we can check. Okay? And we call this the 4 Ds of mental health concerns. Yung first na D natin is deviance, meaning nagbago from their usual behavior, nagbago from their usual self. Yung mapapansin mo na parang, wait, dati okay ka naman, dati bubbly ka naman, or ma-joke ka naman, but ngayon medyo nag-withdraw ka na, or medyo hindi ka na nakikipag-relate sa amin, ganyan. Alright? So, deviance, nag-iba siya. Okay? Yung second is distress. Nakaka-experience siya ng hirap doon sa from the traumatic experience. Dito papasok yung from PTSD, no? Dito papasok yung flashbacks, dito papasok yung nag-iba yung perspective nila sa sarili nila, sa ibang tao, kaya sa mundo. Okay? Next is dysfunction. It makes it difficult for them basically to function sa iba't ibang aspeto ng buhay nila. So dito papasok yung medyo nag-iba yung tulog niya, or bakit naging magugulatin siya? Ano nangyari? O kaya ayaw niya na akong hawakan siya. Bakit ganun? Okay? And lastly, danger. So dito papasok yung reckless or destructive behavior nila. Okay? Whether it's gambling, it's substance use, or sometimes even promiscuity. Okay? Now, these are just the basic ways that we can check. Okay? I-describe natin ito sa tao na iniisip natin, kung meron tayo iniisip ngayon, okay, anong deviance, ano yung nagbago sa kanya? Are they experiencing danger, or are they probably thinking about or doing dangerous things or reckless things? Nahihirapan ba sila? Are they having difficulty functioning sa trabaho or sa relationships, whatever it is? Okay? That's the way that we can also assess kung meron tayong mahal sa buhay na nagsistruggle sa isang mental health concern. Not just PTSD, and this is super crucial because it doesn't, just because we're not talking about mental health, or just because medyo hindi natin iniisip ang mental health problems, it doesn't immediately erase someone's pain. No? It doesn't immediately make things better. Okay? And it always starts with us acknowledging that it's there, that it happens. Okay? Now, yung third part natin, ito yung medyo upside natin. No? Paano natin ma-overcome, or yung itong struggling with PTSD. And I'll be showing with you 3 perspectives. Okay? And the first perspective is from a professional. Now, kadalasan, when you go to a mental health professional, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, okay, they would generally want to be able to assess you first. Ay, assess nila ano ba yung pinagdadaanan mo. Anong nangyari? Meron bang may nangyari ba before this, before what you're struggling? Or is there something that's happening right now that is also affecting you? So we want to assess all of that. Okay? Bago tayo makapag-diagnose na, you have this, you have that, you have that. Okay? Kadalasan, generally, ang kasabay niya ang psychotherapy. Okay? Yan yung usually ginagawa ng natin sa intervention area. Pero kapag kung kailangan natin ng support, we can always go to a mental health professional for a consultation. Kahit na wala tayong sinasabi na I might have this or I might have that, kahit magpapacheck lang tayo kung kumusta na ba yung mental health ko, it's always good to go to a mental health professional for a checkup. Just as it's normal to go to a physician sa annual checkup natin o kaya sa dentista para magpa-prophylaxis. Okay? Now, the second perspective that I'm going to be sharing with you is for yourself. Okay? Especially if you are struggling with trauma-related issues. Okay? It's important, number one, to get to know your triggers. Okay? Nakwento ni Ron kanina yon na nagkaroon siya ng immense na panic attack nung nag-breakdown yung car niya. Right? Because it's happened before. It is related doon sa nangyari before. So, that way, he was able to understand his triggers. Okay? And we also want to understand kung ano yung nagka-trigger sa atin so that we are able to manage ourselves ahead of time. Okay? Yung second is keep handy grounding techniques. Okay? Pwede siyang maging meditation, pwedeng breathing exercises, pwedeng kahit kandila lang, scented candle na aamuin mo just for you to feel na, okay, I'm here, right now. No? That's super important. Third is write or keep a journal. And yan, exactly yung ginawa ni Rod, di ba? He kept a journal because it's important for you to be able to separate yourself from your thoughts. Lalo na kapag you're so stuck in that moment. No? Ihiwalay mo yung sarili mo dun sa iniisip mo. And then babalikan mo parang, oh my God, ganito pala inisip ko or ganito pala yung thought process ko. Okay? And you get to know yourself also. Okay? Yung next is, and hindi naman applicable sa lahat, pero generally recommended, get a support pet. This works for children with autism. Na pag may support pet sila, it helps them na parang, okay, I'm safe, I'm calm, I'm good. No? And that will also help us lalo na kapag we're experiencing yung panics natin. Okay? And yung next is open up to someone, always a good copy. Okay, that we have a strong and stable support system that we can always go to kapag nahihirapan tayo. Okay, because they will support us. Okay, they know us and they will find a way to support us also. Okay, and lastly, create a crisis plan. Not sure if any of you guys are familiar with this, pero crisis plan is what you do. Okay, it's what you create when you want to prepare for a potential panic attack, for a potential crisis that may happen. Okay, so dito nyo ilalagay yung ano yung triggers ko, what do I do if this trigger happens to me. Okay, ano yung gagawin ko, ano yung gagawin ng support ko. Okay, and then share it to the people who support you also. Alright? But then if you want to check this with your or want to do this with your professional with your mental health professional. Okay? Now, the last perspective is for your loved ones. Okay? And I understand na medyo mahirap lalo na kapag naka-experience ng trauma yung sinusuportahan natin, but and this might be very very general, but always, always, always the first to listen. Okay, sobrang importante niya and super complicated niya, but it's super important. Because dito papasok yung empathy natin, dito papasok yung patience natin, kaya kahit na paulit-ulit, ganon, dito importante yung suporta natin when we are able to listen to them and provide a space for them to talk, to just open up. Okay? Second is to also know their triggers. Kailangan alam niyo rin, no? Para kasi since kayo yung magiging kayo yung magiging main, no, na nakikita nila sa buhay nila, it's important that you don't trigger them as well. Okay, kasi kasi kapag hindi natin alam na trigger pala natin sila, magagalit na lang tayo, ay nangyayari sa'yo, no? And it can cause a lot of misunderstandings. So it's important to know their triggers. The next is to get in on their crisis plan, to also know what you're gonna do if ever a crisis happens. Kasi alam ko yun, no, sa kapag mahal mo sa buhay, tas feeling mo wala kang magawa, right? It can be really difficult kasi para kang paralyzed eh. So it's important to also understand kung ano yung role mo when a crisis happens. Ayan, lastly, help them find professional support if wala pa silang professional support. Kasi ikaw yung pinakaunang pagkakatiwalaan nila. Okay? And you want to be able to transfer that trust to a mental health professional who can really help them root out the problem. Alright? And these are the four very, very important ways, or at least foundational ways, that we can support our loved ones as well. And all of these, it's so helpful for us because when we're talking about recovering, whether it's from PTSD or from any other mental health issue, in that case, it doesn't mean na pag okay ka na, wala na, no, wala na yung nangyari. It's like a scar, no? You will know that it happened before, but it doesn't control you anymore. It just means that you're stronger now than you were before. You're a survivor. And that is all the things that we want to be able to understand about PTSD, right? That will help us. I hope that you guys are able to write down at least some of the very pertinent things na kailangan natin malaman, not just the PTSD, but also mental health concerns in general, so that kahit hindi related sa PTSD or anxiety or whatnot, malalaman natin kapag nagsistruggle yung mahal natin sa buhay. Okay? Again, I'm Ann Silva, and maraming salamat for listening to me.
Okay, maraming salamat, Miss Ann Silva. Palakpakan po natin, ano? She gave us a very good insight into depression, especially hindi lang those who are suffering from depression, even family members, no? How to handle someone baka in your family na who's undergoing one. Galing. Ron, may may na-identify ka ba doon? Mga triggers?
Nakalimutan ko lang yung isa but Ann, are you still there?
Yes,
Oo.
definitely.
I mentioned earlier about yung the things that I was doing very well in the past. Brent is here, no? Kasama natin si Brent Ann, no? From Philben Cup. I mentioned earlier about nagkakaroon ako dati nagagawa ko ng maayos at with enthusiasm, yung gumagawa ako ng mga marketing plan, feasibility studies. Those are things that I enthusiastic akong ginagawa in the past. But in the recent years, nakakatanggap ako nito, nag-struggle ako. Nagkakaroon ako ng scare. I mentioned earlier that the scare was baka I wouldn't be able to finish it successfully. And now parang kinoconnect ko siya dun sa business ng daddy ko, yung RMM. RMM is yung NASIDA na binanggit kanina ni yung RMM na company na tinayo ng daddy na where I excitedly jumped you know, to ano no to take over when I was a teenager. So the question is this part, kasi kanina may tanong, is um, what were, yung ano ba yung mga triggers ko? Is it yung lang bang, yung lang bang car accident? But now I'm thinking, baka itong yung dahil I lost the business na akala ko yun yung mission ko. So is that valid? Could it be a trigger also of the anxiety, PTSD?
It depends on what you're feeling, no? Thank you, Ron, for that. Kasi kadalasan, ang triggers natin, it doesn't necessarily have to be directly related to what happened doon sa traumatic experience natin. Somehow, minsan niloloko tayo ng isip natin that it's connecting something to something unrelated. It's connecting a traumatic experience to something unrelated na somehow naggugulo-gulo siya. Kaya yung sinasabi ko kanina, sobrang crucial ng mental health professional. Kasi, ano niya yan, iaantay niya yan lahat eh. Isa-straighten niya yan lahat. So that, for us to realize na yung trigger na yon, it's not in any way related to sa traumatic experience. But yes, definitely, it can be a trigger. It can happen. Hindi ko lang ma-explain kung paano siya direct makaka-connect.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers your question, Ron. Miss Anne, bago tayo magkalimutan kasi, I'm sure a lot of the viewers natin might also want to engage, di ba, with you. How do we contact you?
Yeah, you message us on our Facebook and Instagram at Tanglaw Mental Health. And pag sinearch nyo, kahit sa Google, isearch nyo, Tanglaw Mental Health, lalabas kami. You can message us there. You can also email us at tanglawmentalhealth@gmail.com if you have any questions or if you want to work with us, if you think we can help your company.
Ayun, okay. So Tanglaw Mental Health. So guys, marami akong napulot ngayon actually, even with people I know in my family and actually even myself, no? Kaya ako nagkakaganito, pagpasensyahan nyo na.
May kinalaman sa gout.
May kinalaman sa... Hindi, actually, yun nga, pilay ako ngayon pero physically, but very valuable yung pinag-uusapan nila Anne, nila Ron today. Ibang klaseng pilay yun eh. Pilay ng emotions, ng mental health. And it's very important that we take care of our mental health as well as our physical health. Di ba?
Yeah. I have another question, if it's okay, Anne. Yung bipolar ko was diagnosed in 2018 or late 2017. Ito ba'y nag-progress to PTSD or is it an entirely different health issue?
Usually magkaiba ang PTSD at bipolar, but they can coexist. Meaning they can be diagnosed together. Okay? But they have their own set of symptoms, of experiences. Is it okay for me to ask if you were diagnosed with PTSD also?
I'm sorry?
Were you also diagnosed with PTSD?
Yes. After that car trouble, that very not hindi man very minor,
Yes.
but that minor trouble sa ano.
Mm-mm.
So
yes, definitely.
nag-ano kaagad ako, nagpanic and then it progressed to real difficult anxiety. And yeah,
Yes.
I asked a doctor, the same doctor that was prescribing the medicine for bipolar. He was the one who declared that I'm also suffering from PTSD.
Yun nga. Yes, they can coexist. Like I said earlier dun sa talk ko, when people with PTSD, they are 80% more likely to experience other mental health issues such as bipolar, depression, anxiety.
Saka, Anne, I just heard this from one doctor, no? Kasi we are in the middle of the pandemic, although hopefully the world is recovering, no? Pero sabi nitong doctor na to, after we have recovered from the pandemic, from COVID, the next pandemic is about mental health. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. That's something that we already said nung simula pala ng pandemic. Kasi nakita namin yun we were able to observe it. That before the pandemic, people who were okay naman sila, no, they were able to manage themselves. Nung nagsimula yung pandemic, nahirapan na sila sa pagtulog, they're experiencing anxiety, a lot of worries, a lot of fears. And that's already a mental health concern in itself, albeit hindi siya diagnosable. And there are also people who were, before the pandemic, diagnosed na ng mental health issues. Nung nagsimula yung pandemic, naging severe yung issues nila. Yun yung na-observe
True.
namin. And that was really painful for us to see. So sabi ko, hindi, we're already experiencing an emotional pandemic. We're already experiencing it and we're trying to tackle it now.
All right. So we're already in it. So, guys, medyo very important that we engage people like Ann Silva and Tanglaw Mental Health. Again, sabi nga ni Ann, you wanna get in touch with them, just Google Tanglaw Mental Health. They're on IG and Facebook, and also you can email tanglawmentalhealth@gmail.com to get in touch with them or if you have inquiries. Okay? Ron, meron pa ba?
Salamat, Ann, sa lahat. Salamat
Thank
sa
you.
lahat ng tulong mo, Ann.
Ann, very
Thank
valuable
you,
to.
Ron. Thank you, Doms.
Kasi actually yun nga, more than launching his book here, si Ron also wants to contribute to the, enlightenment of people, to educate people also about, yun nga, mental health issues. Very, very, as you mentioned, we already have that epidemic right now. So, many thanks, Ann Silva. Palakpakan po natin Miss Ann Silva of Tanglaw Mental Health.
Ann.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Gandang gabi po. Salamat.